Chapter 20 Sri Sai Satcharitra English Das Ganu's problem solved by Kaka's maid servant Panimanishi, a female domestic servant. MAID SERVANT. In this chapter, Hemant Pant describes how Das Ganu's problem was solved by Kaka Sahib Dikshit's maid servant. Preliminary. God was originally formless. He assumed a form of the sake of Bhaktas with the help of Maya. He played the part of an actor in the big drama of the universe. Let us remember and visualize Sri Sai. Let us go to Shirdi and see carefully the program after the noon Arati. After the Arati ceremony was over, Sai used to come out of the masjid and standing on its edge distribute Udi to the devotees with very kind, gracious, and loving looks. The Bhaktas also got up with equal fervor, FERVOUR, clasped, CLASPAD, Pattukunnaru, grasped something tightly with one's hand. He clasped her arm, his feet, and had the bliss of Udi. Baba passed a handful of Udis into the palms of the devotees and marked their foreheads with Udi and with his own hands. The love he bore for them in his heart was boundless. Then he addressed the Bhaktas, "Oh, Bahu, go home to take your lunch. Your Anna, go to your lodgings. You, Bapu, enjoy your meal." In this way, he accosted ACCOSTAD each and every devotee and sent them home. Even now, you can have the pleasure of these sights if you bring into play your imagination. Now, bringing Sai in our mental vision, let us meditate to him. From his feet upwards to his face, prostrating before him humbly, lovingly, and reverentially. Bhaktipurvakanga of the nature of due to are characterized by reverence. Their names are always mentioned in reverential tones. Isha Upanishad. Das Ganu once started writing a Marathi commentary on the Isha Upanishad. Let us first give a brief idea of this Upanishad before proceeding further. It is called Mantropanishad as it is embodied in the mantras of the Vedic Sanhita. It constitutes the last or the 40th chapter of the Vajasaneyi Sanhit Yajurveda, and it is therefore called Vajasanehi Sanhitopadesh. Being embodied in Vedic Sanhitas, this is regarded as superior to all other Upanishads, which are in Brahmaghitas, Aranyakas, explanatory treatise, TREATIES, Oppandalu, a binding formal agreement, contract, or other written instrument that establishes obligations between two or more subjects of the international law, or mantras and rituals. Not only this, other Upanishads are considered to be commentaries on the truths mentioned briefly in the Isha Upanishad. For instance, the biggest of the Upanishads, which the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is considered by Pandit Satwalkar to be a running commentary on the Isha Upanishad. Professor R.D. Rande says the Isha Upanishad is quite a small Upanishad and yet it contains many facts which show an extraordinarily piercing insight within the short compass of 18 verses. It gives a valuable mystical description of the Atma, a description of the ideal sage who stands unruffled, UNRUFFLED, Kalata Chandani, Prasantamaina of a person or their manner not agitated or disturbed calm in the minds of temptations and sorrows. An adumberation, ADUMBRATION, అస్పష్టంగా రేఖామాత్రంగా సూచించు. Represent in outline. Sreenivasa had already adumbrated the pilgrimage of Vimalvada and Sri Chandrayasa's second daughter's marriage attending. Doctrine or Karma Yoga, as latter formulated, the most valuable idea that lies in the root of the Upanishad is that logical synthesis between the two opposites of knowledge and work, which are both required according to the Upanishad to be annulled, ANNULLED, రద్దు చేయబడ్డ in a higher synthesis SYNTHESIS Samanvayamu Kutrima Tayari, the combination of components or elements to form a connected whole, the synthesis of intellect and emotion in his work. Page 24 of the Constructive Survey of Upanishadic Philosophy. In another place, he says that the poetry of the Isa Upanishad is a co-mixture of moral, mystical, and metaphysical knowledge. IBIT, page 41. From the brief description given above about this Upanishad, one can see how difficult it is to translate this Upanishad in a vernacular BERNACULAR language, Vaduka Bhasha, the informal language used by a specific group of people such as a particular region or culture, and bring out its exact meaning. Das Ganu translated it in Marathi OY meter verse by the verse, but as he did not comprehend the gist, or essence of the Upanishad, he was not satisfied with his performance. On being dissatisfied, he consulted some learned men regarding his doubts and difficulties and discussed it with them at great length. They did not solve them, nor did they give him any rational and satisfactory explanation. So Das Ganu was a little restless over this matter. Sadguru only competent and qualified to explain. As we have seen, this Upanishad is the quintessence, QUINTESSENCE, అత్యంత స్వచ్ఛమైన రూపం, ప్రకాశవంతమైన రూపం, the most perfect or typical example of a quality or class. Sreenivasa Moorthy is trying to become the quintessence of professionalism in his subjects, what he learned in earlier years of the Vedas. It is the science of self-realization. It is the Saithe, SCYTHE, or weapon which can rend asunder the bondage of life and death and make us free. Therefore, he thought that he who has himself attained his self-realization can only give him the true or correct interpretation of the Upanishad. When nobody could satisfy Das Ganu, he resolved to consult Sai Baba about this. When he got an opportunity to go to Shirdi, he saw Sai Baba prostrated himself before him and mentioned his difficulties about the Isha Upanishad and requested him to give the correct solution. Sai Baba blessed him and said, "You need not be anxious. There is no difficulty about the matter. The maid servant of Kaka Sahib Dikshit, will solve your doubts. A ville parle and your own home." The people who were present there and heard this thought that Baba was joking and said, "How could an illiterate maid servant, Panimanishi, female domestic servant, solve difficulties of this mystic nature?" But Das Ganu thought otherwise. He was sure that whatever Baba spoke must come true, as Baba's word was the decree of Brahma Almighty. Kaka's maid servant, fully believing Baba's words, he left Shirdi and came to Ville Parle, a suburb of Mumbai, and stayed with Kaka Sahib Dikshit. There was the next day when Das Ganu was enjoying his morning nap, some say when he was engaged in worship. He heard poor girl singing a beautiful song in clear and melodious tone. The theme of the song was a crimson of a rich deep and color including to purple colored saree. How nice it was, how fine was its embroidery, how beautiful were its border, etc. He liked the song so much that he came out and saw that it was being sung by a young girl, the sister of Namya, who was a servant of Kaka Sahib. The girl was cleaning vessels and had only a torn rag on her person. On seeing her impoverished, IMPOERISHED, Daridram, reduced to poverty, poor and impoverished family, community, exhausted of richness or fertility, impoverished soils, condition and her happy temperament. Das Ganu felt pity for her, and then Rao Bahadur MV Pradhan gave him a pair of dhotas the next day. He requested him to give a saree to the poor little girl also. Rao Bahadur brought a good chirdi, small saree, and presented to her like a starved, ఆకలితో అనిపించిన person getting delicious dishes to eat. Her joy knew no bounds. Next day, she wore the new saree and out of great joy and merriment, whirled and danced around the played Fugadi, Fugada. Fugadi is an art form that can be traced to the primeval cultural traditions of Maharashtra and Goa. It is performed during various religious and social occasions. Fugadi is generally performed during the month of Bhadrapada, an occasion for the women to take a temporary break from their normal monotonous schedule with other girls. The following day, she kept the new saree in her box at home and pity transformed into admiration. He thought that the girl, being poor, had to wear a torn rag, but now she had a new saree which she kept in reserve and putting on the old rag. Strutted, strutted, walked with a stiff, erect, and apparently arrogant or conceited gait herself, showing no trace of sorrow or dejection. Thus, he realized that all our feel that a man out to enjoy whatever God has bestowed. Andajesina bestowed his spare time on study to put in a particular or appropriate place in the firm conviction that he besets BESETES chuttumuttu of a problem or difficulty someone or something persistently from all sides, and that whatever is bestowed on him by God must for his good. In this particular case, the impoverished condition of the poor girl, her torn rag and the new saree, the donor, the dunny, and the deal were all parts of the Lord and pervaded by him. Here Das Ganu got a practical demonstration of the lesson of the Upanishad, the lesson of the contentment with one's own lot with the belief that whatever happens is ordained, O-R-D-A-I-N-E-D, నియమింపబడింది, order something officially by the God, and is ultimately good for us. Unique method of teachings. From the above incident, the listener will observe that Baba's mentioned was unique and varied. Though Baba never left Shirdi, he sent some to Machindragad, some to Kolhapur or Solapur for practicing sadhanas. To some he is appeared in his usual form, to some he appeared in waking or dream states day or night and satisfied their desires. It is impossible to describe all the methods that Baba used in imparting instructions to his bhaktas. In this particular case, he sent Das Ganu to Ville Parle, where he got his problem solved through the maid servant. To those who say that it was not necessary to send away Das Ganus and that Baba could have personally taught him, we say that the Baba followed the right or best course, or how else could Das Ganu learn a great lesson that the poor maid servant and her saree were pervaded, వ్యాపించి ఉంది by the Lord. Now we close this chapter with another beautiful extract about this Upanishad. The ethics of the Isha. One of the main features of the Isha Upanishad is the ethical advice it offers, and it is interesting to note that the ethics of the Upanishad are definitely based upon the metaphysical, Adibhautika, after the things of nature, referring to an idea, doctrine, or posited reality outside of human sense, perception. In modern philosophical terminology, metaphysics refers to the studies of what cannot be reached through objective studies of material reality. Position give it in it. The very opening words of the Upanishad tell us that God pervades everything. As a corollary, COROLLARY, Sahaja Parinamamu, Sahaja Falitamu, forming a proposition that follows from the already proved. From this metaphysical position, the ethical advice it offers is that a man ought to enjoy whatever God bestows on him, in the firm belief that as he pervades everything, whatever is bestowed on him by God must be good. It follows naturally that the Upanishad forbids us from coveting a bother man's property. In fact, we are fittingly taught here a lesson of contentment with one's own lot, in the belief that whatever happens is divinely ordained and hence it is good for us. Another moral advice is that man must spend his lifetime always in doing ordained actions, specifically the karmas enjoined in the Shastras, with resignation to his will. Inactivity, according to this Upanishad, would be canker of the soul. It is only when a man spends his lifetime in doing actions in this manner that he can hope to attain the ideal of Vaishkamya. Finally, the text goes on to say that a man who sees all beings in the self and sees the self as existing in all beings, in fact, for whom all beings and everything that exists have become the self, how can such a man suffer infatuation? What ground would such a man have for grief? Loathfulness, infatuation, and grief verily proceed from our being able to see the Atma in all the things, but become the self must ipso facto by the fact itself, which means that a specific phenomenon is a direct consequence, a resultant of effect of the action in question, instead of being brought out by previous action. It is a term of art used in philosophy, law, and science. Cease to be affected by the common foibles, foibles, tappulu, a minor weakness or eccentricity in someone's character of humanity. Page 169 to 170 of the Creativity Period by Messrs. Balwakar and Rande. Bow to Sri Sai. Peace.